MyDoma Studio is your complete designer toolkit. You know this, right? MyDoma makes it easy to streamline your processes, track your projects, communicate with clients, and just get organized. It is created by designers for designers, specifically to address what you need as a design business owner. MyDoma is now together with Studio Designer, and they are the industry-leading solution. With 20,000 plus users, more designers choose their platform than any other. Are you ready to reach the next level of profitability and efficiency? Book a demo with MyDoma Studio today by going to mydomastudio.com/LuAnn. That's mydomastudio.com/LuAnn. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Let's talk about a couple of questions that I keep hearing in the industry, and they're like two sides of the same coin. On one side, designers, maybe you're one of them, is saying AI is incredible. It's changing everything. Yay. And on the other side, I'm hearing, I just spent 3 hours trying to get one image right, and I still don't think it's right. So which is it? Is AI actually saving you time, or is it burning up your precious daylight? Now, today, we're going to walk through AI in relation to renderings, what AI is good at, where it completely falls apart, and how the smart designers are utilizing both without wasting time or compromising their work product. To have this conversation, I invited two people I trust the most to talk about it. You already know Mina Duque from Duque Renders. Mina is an interior designer herself and one of the founders of our show sponsor, Duque Renders. And joining us is also Jenna Gaidusek. Jenna is not talking about AI from the sidelines. She's been working at the intersection of design and technology for years. She's built one of the first virtual design communities, has trained thousands of interior designers with digital tools, and now leads AI for interior designers, helping you understand exactly how to use AI in a way that supports your business, not distracts from it. So when Jenna talks about AI and what it can do and can't do, she's speaking from real world application, not theory. This is not an either or conversation. This is about knowing when to use which tool and why and how it matters to your business. As I said, this episode is sponsored by Duque Renders. They create 100% accurate photorealistic 3D renderings that show your design exactly as you intended to be done. Not an approximation, not a vibe. It's a real thing, right? Go to duquerenders.com/LuAnn and book a quick call. As a listener, you'll get 30% off your first order. Now, let's hear what Jenna and Mina have to say about this topic. Well, hello, ladies. Welcome, Mina and Jenna, to A Well-Designed Business. I'm so glad to have you both back with me again today.
Hi, LuAnn. This is Mina. So good to be back. I love being here and chatting, and this time with Jenna, who's lovely as well. Can't wait.
Hey, LuAnn. Excited to be back again. And honestly, this conversation is amazing. You guys are both awesome. So this is going to be a really great conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too, because we all know that I have a soft spot in my heart for Duque Renders. I just, from the time I had my very first conversation with Fernando, my goodness, how old is Penelope?
4.
Mina? 4. So it would have been like 4.5 years ago at this point, maybe almost 5, because I know you were pregnant with her. It just struck me genuine. And then, of course, my next conversation was with you. And we've grown to be great friends since then. And I really appreciate it. And of course, I respect and value Duque Renders and what you do and the level of quality. And I've had enough conversations both on the podcast with designers that use your product, Shay McGee and, Nicole Salceda, all of them, right? That I deeply respect what you've built. Here's the thing. About once a week, somebody says to me, but couldn't I do it with AI now? And I'm like, I don't know. Can you? Because I don't know enough about it. So the thing is, we're going to get to the bottom of it. And the two of us have invited Jenna to be here because Jenna's my go-to for AI. I know that Jenna is smart, intelligent. She's fair-minded. She's an interior designer. She has the background both in AI and design to discern what is the real deal. So we're going to pick that apart. But Mina, first, just for anybody, God help me if anybody in my audience hasn't heard of Duque Renders yet. I'm definitely not doing my job. But just for anybody who maybe is aware of you but not quite sure of the service, the deliverables, what you do, lay out what you do, and then I'm going to have Jenna kind of pick it apart back and forth. So go ahead.
Yeah, of course. So what we do are 100% accurate photorealistic renderings, to put it simply. So we take completely accurate measurements and every single detail of what goes into a space, and we model it in 3D, and we deliver that to you. So everything is to scale, and nothing is an approximation, or a lot of times there are softwares where you have a library to choose from, so you can choose items that are good enough or materials. No, in our case, everything is 100% accurate. So even if you design furniture, even if you've created something out of thin air that doesn't exist, it can be modeled and we can show that off for you in your space.
Okay. And I will put in the show notes the half a dozen, probably 3-4 shows that we've done with both yourself, with Fernando, and then also interior designers, like I mentioned, Shay, who use your product and have explained to us why and how they choose to use your company. And so some of that will come out in this conversation, but for full on details, we'll put in the show notes those episodes. So, okay. So Jenna, 100% photorealistic. Yay. I do, like I mentioned, I do have designers when I travel the country and I speak to them in real life and I say, oh, are you using Duque, or are you using this sponsor or that sponsor? And they will push me back and say, with, AI now, I kind of get it done. And what's your answer to that? Because I know that you're probably one of the 5 most adept people in our industry for AI. So even if your garden variety designer can't make AI do a good job, I'll bet you could. Mm-hmm. So what's your thoughts on this?
Yes, I could make it look really pretty, but those of us that are designers know when you dig into something, when something's off, right? So like we know that the scale is wrong, or that the image is now like compressed a little bit more, and the entire thing shrunk a little bit when you run it through AI, and it came out as like kind of a little wonky. The textures and materials are no longer showing exactly how they should in like reflectiveness or sheen or something like that. So yes, you can do things in AI, but we're talking about 2 totally different ends of the spectrum here. We're talking about professional to scale renders with somebody that's making them as a human that can double check for you, like if you made errors, like if that huge lamp that you really wanted as this statement piece does not fit on that demi-lune side table that you have in the entryway because the depth isn't, big enough. So those things, we can look at, numbers, but as designers, we're creatives and we miss these things until we can see them sometimes. So that's why I've always personally done renders, and I'll talk about what I do now because it's different clientele, I think, than who's coming to Mina for her renders. So I don't offer them, but when I do need something that is accurate and to scale and exactly what I'm looking for, that's when you put the time and energy into doing these renders for that particular client.
Okay. So the thing is, what I'm hearing in my brain, sort of like, what's funny is it's sort of reminding me like the old days. I'm going to talk about like the 80s here. And there was no, there was no computers, there was no iPads, there was no smartphones. It was like when I would go to sell window treatments to a custom client, I would walk around. I had a bag, an extra, like, I don't know what kind of tote bag or whatever, with just magazines of window treatments. And I'd be like, do you want a balloon shade? Do you want a swag and jabot? Because that's what we sold every day of the week. And I would have to be like, it's going to be kind of like this. It's going to be kind of like this. And I'm getting, the 2026 version in my mind of that evolution. It's like, if I want a quick idea what to tell somebody, like what the buffet is going to look like on that wall and what the wall is going to be charcoal as opposed to blue, I can do that on AI. But if I want it to be exactly, to Mina's point, the exact chandelier, the exact piece of fabric, and to now what I'm hearing from you is the exact scale. It's not about 8 feet. It's 8 feet 2 inches. Is that kind of what you guys are talking about?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the thing is, when I think back to the several interviews I've done with designers who do use your Duque renders, I think about, like you mentioned it, Jenna. I remember, and I don't remember which designer it was, but they were telling me on the show how they had given Duque all the specifications and this and that, and said, "Oh, make the 100% visual representation of it so that I can sell it to my client." And I remember them saying, and I had a wrong measurement. It was like the wall measurement or the buffet measurement was wrong. And Duque comes back and says, something's not right because your buffet is the exact size or it's an inch bigger than your wall. And go check. Now, Jenna, is AI, if you give AI a spec sheet that says this buffet is 8 foot wide and you give it the room and you say the room's 8 foot wide, will the AI come back and be like, are you sure you want to do this? It's going to look stupid.
No.
Right?
No, it's going to be like, oh, that's perfect. What a beautiful job you just did. Love it. Like, girl.
And that's if the 8 foot and the 8 foot are the same. But what if you tell them that the wall is 7 foot and the thing is 8 foot? Will it still just put it in there and not be like, hey, you don't fit, this doesn't fit?
It's going to try and make it work because you asked it to make an image. It's not going to be like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem to make sense. It's still going to try and squish it in there and get the job done for the photo, but it's not going to be accurate. And only you know that because you told it the measurements.
Right. And you didn't know you made a mistake when you did the measurements. So now the whole thing.
Yep.
Mina, how often I remember that coming up in a conversation on an interview, but is that like, well, not for nothing, that doesn't happen that often, once a year? Or do you find that your team is often having a designer's back in that way and being like, this isn't going to fit or this diameter is out of proportion? Or am I overstating that value?
I feel like it depends because we have almost every client provides different inputs to us. Like, not every designer it's not like everyone uses AutoCAD or everyone delivers, so we work with what each designer has, and depending on their experience level, depending on their, background, education, if they don't start with a really strict plan and with, everything is put into a software already for accurate measurements and elevations and everything like that, which actually a lot of people don't have, surprisingly, then that's where we can catch those mistakes. If they do, then a lot of times those mistakes don't happen necessarily, but it still can help them to see and understand scale in a 3D way because they're looking at it in 2D, and to see, oh, you know what, even though maybe that fits, technically speaking, I'm just not loving the balance it creates visually or something like that. So it's not always, an error that could be, dramatic and catastrophic, but sometimes it is, again, just depending on what they have. Like, we've had sofas before that are way too large and there's not enough room to walk by, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, technically it looks like it could fit, but if you know a thing or two about design and you know how much space you should have, to be able to walk by furniture or whatever it is, then that's where you can call it out. So I wouldn't say it happens, even 50% of the time, but
No, and I wouldn't have thought 50%, but if it
yeah.
happens, not even 50% of the time per individual designer, but if you're doing, 5,000 renders a year and it happens 100 times, that's a heck of a lot of money
Mhm.
that a designer, those 100 individual projects would have purchased a piece that doesn't fit.
Mhm.
hmm The thing is, so in our process, we have 3 different points where built in where you give feedback, and they're used at least 2 out of the 3 100% of the time, if not 3 out of the 3. And most of the feedback is related to changing something because of scale,
Mhm.
because of what they see when it's put to scale. So I would say, yeah, again, it depends what you want to use the images for. If you're using it to get a good idea about, like, are these colors working together? Are these items looking good together? And, okay, fine, that's great. But if you're using it for scale and accuracy, then these renderings are super helpful to our clients.
Right. So to be clear, if you're using AI for, ideas and stuff, that's good. But for scale and accuracy, an actual render by you guys is much better. Okay.
Can I
The other thing about
Can I mention
AI.
something? I'm so sorry. I just
Yeah,
want to,
sure.
there was something in there that you just said, Mina, that was like exactly why AI is not going to compete. And that is, you mentioned, it could look like you can walk by it and that it's to scale, but that is what I find is the biggest issue with AI is that it's going to maybe stretch that walkway so that it looks like you can, or it'll do a plan and it'll say, look, this is perfect, but that a human could not like walk through that entire space. And that's not a natural pattern for somebody that lives in their home to have to like roll over the back of a sofa if it's floating in the room. Like it just get awkward, right? And sometimes like, it'll spin things and then it'll like really just kind of mess with like small fractions of inches that really are impactful. So I would say just because like we know how humans live in a space, you can detect those things like automatic, right? But that's one of the biggest caveats to using AI is that it misses those nuances about how humans live.
Well, and that is such a really good point because the simple fact is that what it's no different when you use AI for its writing and you made the joke, oh, good job. You know what I mean? It's constantly just to your point. It's not critically thinking. It's delivering what you asked it to do. And it's like, the ultimate people pleaser. It's not going to say, hey, this won't work. It's like, I'll do my best and it works, right? And what's interesting about that is regular consumers, they don't have the advantage of ever working with a company like Duque Renders, a professional rendering company. So here they are building it in AI, running off to Bob's Big Boy Furniture and ordering all this stuff. And then like the delivery guy's there and he's like, lady, your sofa's running right up into your doorway here, oh, well, that's the AI image. It looked good there, right?
Yeah.
So that's the design part. That's the design creative part. And so it's not just only, Duque having your back on it, but it is also you, the designer, showing up and adding that critical thinking to it. So I love that. And then the other thing to me is, of course I use AI for writing a lot. And I don't know what happened, but about 3 weeks ago, and I almost called you, Jenna. I almost was like if you were on, I know you're on Voxer with me, but I know you don't use Voxer. But if you were my Voxer pal, I would have been like, Jenna, what is going on? Because all of a sudden, about 3 weeks ago, every single thing I asked AI to do, it would do. Like, so I would do a rough draft of an intro outro, right? And now I just want to clean it up for flow. Like, and then once I have it clean it up for flow, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to human it again, right? But sometimes you're just like, what am I writing that sentence so, backwards for? It's convoluted. And I'm going to tell you what, you always get the next prompt, but about 3 weeks ago, I don't care what I asked it to do. Say I said, this is obviously a dumb example, but please give me all the ingredients for the most delicious banana split. And here it is, 3 scoops of chocolate ice cream, and here's your banana, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, but if you want, I'll give you the most amazing banana split ever. And the secret that most people who make banana splits don't know. And like the first time I'm like, what's that like? And so click. And then not only would it do something and make that piece of writing better or more, then it was like, and I'd be like, and it would deliver it and it'd be like, and there's one other thing. And after like 2 or 3 days, I'm like, what is with the not delivering the right thing to me the first time? I'm like, stop saying there's another better thing, because either there is and give it to me first time, or shut up. I was
like,
just like,
more. Like it's like trying to tell you.
Right. And my thing is like when I put myself in that place with a designer creating an image, what are we going to spend 15 hours on an image here? Because, but wait, there's the Ginsu knives. Let's do it one more way. And so do you find, Jenna, that like a designer is going to have an iteration process? Yeah. That is creative. Like me, I will, people go out of their mind when they learn that I just did a solo show yesterday, recorded it for Window Treatment for Profit. It is a 20-minute show. It took me 6 hours to write it with the help of AI, because I'm just like, bang, bang, how can I make it better? What's really the point here? And so to me, I put myself in the place of a designer as well in that regard. It's like, I'm already going to iterate. I'm already creative. And this is the mark on the world. The creative aspect is the thing that I present as a designer. But with AI, man, like I literally just said, shut up. Give me one. So do you find designers are in that rabbit hole with image creation and blowing their billable hours, which they are not going to bill for, by the way, blowing away their time? For what reason? Whereas if you come to somebody with Duque with all of the components and I want it to look like this, they're going to make some suggestions, but you're not going to be down a rabbit hole for 8 hours, right?
Yeah. I think we're talking about two very different parts of the process. So I am not looking for those scaled renderings and everything in the beginning. I'm spending time saying, do you like this direction that we're going? And it's not perfect, which is
to the client,
and just setting those expectations, saying like, this is how I'm going to visually communicate the direction that I think that we should go in. This is definitely not to scale. This is definitely not the right products. They're not showing up properly. Like there's weird little nuances. They look okay, but when you look deeper, like, there's 3 legs on that chair over there or something. Like it's these fine little things. So with that being said, like, I do see a lot of designers that have a higher expectation of what AI can do that are wasting their time trying to create it because it's not possible, but they think that it is because the AI guys are like, oh my gosh, we can do this, but it can't. So being realistic about like, here's why this is a tool at this phase in our process and what's wrong with it. And then being transparent about that. I think that's the direction that we need to take right now. And then know that there's a major difference between that first part and then the final drawings, that like you can build this in the real world from these renders and from this drawing, which you cannot do with these AI images. You can certainly try, but I'd love to see the final result of anybody that tried that.
Yeah. So what I also heard in there, Jenna, is if a designer is continuing to try and refine it and get it right in the AI, you could understandably think, I just don't have the right prompts. And that's how you go down the rabbit hole, because you're like, oh, I didn't tell it that. And what you're saying is it's not going to happen. And I also think I hear you saying, Jenna, that there's a place for it in that beginning stage process. Like, no different than me walking in with the magazines. This isn't your window. This isn't your fabric, but this is what a shirred balloon looks like versus a tailored balloon. Which one do you want, Mrs. Smith? Okay. Next step, we're going to pick your exact fabric, blah, blah, blah. Right. So there's a place for it. Almost like the way a designer 10 years ago would have used Pinterest, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I've cut out Pinterest because, I used to do that too, where I would do the boards. Now it's all AI on Pinterest anyway, right? So like, why aren't you taking your transcript from your client conversation in their wish list, right? In your knowledge, putting that in and saying, here's some inspiration image, based off of your initial intake, right? And then do you like it? Like, just like you would with the Pinterest. Did you like this element? Did you like this element? And that designer is not going to show them something that, Pinterest might have that is just not realistic for the real world, because they can pull that apart before they even share it with the client so that those things are gone. Also, in that same regard, you're not stealing from other designers that had put in the work, put in the time on the photography, and grab their image and use them, which is, I'm going to just side note here, ethically, that is something that I do not do. You do not take other designers' work. It's their intellectual property. You cannot put that in your AI just because you can. You shouldn't put that in there, right? So this is all from your words from the get-go. And I think that there's still so much value in having that as an AI process, just as a new process and a new way to do this, versus wasting 5 hours on Pinterest. Now you're going to spend 3 hours creating a set of customized AI inspirational images that get you through to the next part when you're ready to bring in Mina so that they can actually render everything in the end.
Right, your actual selections.
And also, Mina here, I just wanted to add that just the other day we had a designer come to us, one of our clients, and she's like, I just spent God knows how many hours working with AI trying to get this done. She had an image, it was like a breakfast nook area, and she wanted to add a cushion, like a long cushion, and then have a certain fabric on there, and then something with curtains as well with another fabric on there. And she's like, it's not looking accurate. It's not looking to scale. So I just wasted a bunch of time, whatever, but can we do this, please?
Yeah.
And I've heard that a lot. So it depends on the type of designer you are. I feel like how much time you're willing to spend learning and iterating with AI tools. It also depends on what purpose you're using it for. Like, again, at what stage in the design process. I think it also depends on the type of clients that you have, the type of budgets that you or your clients have as well. So there's so many factors. There's definitely a time and place where it's great, but there's also a time and place where it's like, you know what, do I really want to be doing this right now when I'm trying to get it really accurate? So all of that has come into play, and we've talked to people who've done courses, who've spent a lot of time with iterations, and they still come to us again, especially with certain clients and certain projects, and they're like, no, I really need this done right. I can't have it be an estimation for this particular purpose or project.
Well, and I'm also hearing that it sounds like it's along the journey of the design process. There is a value in both. It's not either or. Like, that's what I've given, people have, proposed to me over the last several months as AI has become more accessible, more people are using it. They're like, well, why would I use Duque when I have AI? And what I'm hearing from you guys is it's like, in the beginning, use the AI, put it in, have a 3-legged chair. Nobody's going to sit on it. And the space is wrong. But it's, I used to remember seeing mood boards that designers would put together, and there were just like images kind of like overlaid on each other. It wasn't 3D. It was like flat, and it was like the sofa's kind of standing on top of this. But the idea is, what I'm hearing, there's value to the beginning process, to honing in on converting what the client's words are and wish list, to your words, Jenna, to images. But when we're really ready to do the work, let's not putz around. Like, let's not, pretend that this has gotten us to an accurate thing. It's gotten us to an idea, but not an accurate thing. And to your point, Mina, you keep saying it depends on what kind of designer you are. It depends on what kind of client you have. Because in some jobs, maybe, doing just up to the AI is good enough. Maybe it's a simple room. It's not a lot of technical. There's not a lot, and maybe it's not a big budget. It doesn't matter. But when it matters, don't pretend that the AI is the thing, is what I'm hearing you guys say.
Yeah. And also, we just started offering a very slight AI service as well, where we can basically do the iterating for you. And this is really good for people that don't want to learn how to use the AI and they don't want to spend the time iterating. So for example, one of our clients, she specializes in doing yachts, and she was like, I literally just need to show what it looks like with this rug because it's a really expensive rug. I'm trying to convince them that they need it. And there was like one or two other things. And she's like, I need it like tomorrow. What can you do? And I was like, well, we can use,
The day after tomorrow.
Yeah. And with this AI service that we offer now, it is 24-hour turnaround time, but you're limited in what you can do. So for something like this, where you just want to show a few changes, it's perfect. And we use AI tools and Photoshop. So where AI can fall short, we can use Photoshop to kind of, adjust, extend, whatever it is. And so I was like, well, yeah, we can do it with AI. And she's like, perfect, because she didn't want to learn how to do it. And and this was like, I think it was like I don't know, maybe it was like a $15,000 or $20,000 rug, or no, $50,000 rug. I don't remember.
Well,
it was a real.
You want to make sure they like that.
And she's like, how much does it cost? And I told her, and she was like, worth it. So
right, it's the insurance policy, right?
Yeah,
it's the insurance policy.
So for people that don't want to spend the time iterating, again, depends on the kind of designer you are. If you want to spend the time with the iterations, and if you want to learn it, and you want to whatever, even if it's not accurate, great. But there are some people, even that, they don't want to spend the time doing it.
Right.
And our service has always been about doing something for you that technically you could do yourself. So even if AI, even if you're capable of doing it, it's like, do you want to spend the time doing it? Yes or no? So,
well, it's so funny because, I love designers. I do. They're my good friends, but they are often, as a group, one of the people who will literally say the same words that their own clients say to them and they get pissy about.
Yes.
It's like, well, why should I pay you to do it when I can do it? Oh, okay. Not only because you can go do something else and make money doing it or just have a yoga class, but can you do it as well as I do it? So whether you're a consumer saying to a designer, why should I pay you when I can do it? Or you're a designer saying to a professional rendering service like Duque, why should I pay you when I can do it? It's like, I used to get that line with WindowWorks all the time. It's like, well, I can open up an account with $100 and I can open up an account with Horizon and I can open an account with Cravat. I'm like, yeah, you can. You can paint a room too. When's the last time you said to somebody, your room should be seashell blue and I'm going to get my paintbrush. I'll be right back. Like, couldn't you do something else while the professional does this? And guess what? We're going to do it a little better than you. Just going to say.
Yeah.
The big one is websites, just to take a tangent. The big one is websites. Designers making their own websites. I'm like, oh, that's so precious. You know all about coding. You know all about SEO. Yay, you.
Well,
like, what are you
easy,
doing?
I will say.
What's that?
Squarespace makes it really easy because now AI is built in. But 5 years ago, no. Hire someone.
Right. But even still, like when I think about what, Gloria Brand brings to the table, it's like, I'm sorry.
That's a whole different capacity. She's bringing.
Well, and that's what Duque is. It's that next level. It's like, we're not talking about like good enough renders.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, and I just think that like I said, I alluded to, and we'll share a couple of the stories that the designers that have used you, like Shay McGee, she was here on the show. We'll link it in the show notes. And she goes, at first, my designers that work for me weren't thrilled about doing it. They didn't want to stop. They didn't want to send it out to you guys. They didn't want to wait for it, whatever it is. But she said, I know for a fact we get from hello to check way faster when we have these 100% photorealistic renderings. Like when you can say, you've gone through that process, to your point, Jenna, mood idea. Here's where we're going, blah, blah, blah. But now you've actually specified the $30,000 chandelier, the $50,000 rug, the $40,000 sofa, or the $4,000 sofa and the $5,000 chandelier. It doesn't matter what price point you swim in. When somebody, like her words are, somebody sees that, they're like, click buy. Like, yes, give me that. Because you really are seeing the value, to your point with the yacht designer, like the impact that rug has on that space. And now you see it and you want it. And it's like, right?
And yeah, and to also to Studio McGee and McGee and Co. I've had conversations with their team too, where like they've tried using AI for certain um, in certain ways, but the quality of the image isn't high enough. And so if they want to show different variations, they will do renderings of it just because they, even if, on your screen you're looking at it, you're like, well, that looks like a clear image, but you know, real professionals, depending on what they're using the images for, they need high quality images with really, really high pixelation. So, an
Mm.
AI doesn't deliver that. So, if you zoom in, it doesn't look great, or if print it or, blow it up large, it doesn't look great. So, that's another factor.
Well, and I also think that if you are a luxury firm or aspiring to be a luxury firm, isn't every deliverable you give indicating what your standards are? Right?
Mhm.
So if everything about it is luxury, I might do my intake call, I do my consultation, your design presentation, but then I slap the images down. And like you said, if they're, you know, blown up or delivered in a size that makes it so that the consumer can actually appreciate it, but it's blurry or it's this, it's sort of like it's 2026. Couldn't you make this look good? And why didn't you? Does it not matter to you? Is this a detail that you don't think is important? Like, and I don't think a consumer is going to sit across your design studio table and think those sentences,
Yeah.
right? I don't think a consumer is going to like, I wonder if they won't do good work because this image is blurry.
Mhm.
I think it's just the indication of the level of expertise and quality that you deliver. Like you would never go into a design presentation in your, yoga pants and hiking boots that are filthy with mud on it, right? Like, yeah, you might tell them I went hiking this morning, but you don't like come to the presentation that way, right? And so it's like, well, why am I coming to the presentation with, a $60,000-$80,000 design fee and a two or three, four, $500,000 furniture budget with an image that is
Mhm.
like I don't know, like CVS blew it on the blow up of your kid's photo, right? It's like, I mean, right? Like that's what it reminds me of. It's like, oh, nobody like I had, and why that came out of my mouth is just last weekend I was like going through my phone and picking pictures and making a collage of all the grandkids for one wall, and like three of the photos when I had them blown up to like 8 by 10, I was like, well, this looks like crap. It's like her eyes aren't crisp, and I'm like, because you know what, the little machine on my computer with the drugstore did not tell me this won't blow up good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but those prints are 49 cents, not, it's not a $40,000 rug that I've done wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
am I missing any other aspect of it that you guys can think of that, either the experience, Jenna, that you're thinking about, or the deliverable, Mina, that you know about? What else needs to be said here?
So I will say that I built my first business rendering, and
Yeah.
like it was acquired by my Doma and all of that stuff. And I taught rendering, but also I love rendering. I really do. I personally enjoy it, but I have a problem where, like, if I start rendering, I'm a perfectionist and I will not sleep until I get all those things where they need to be. And I couldn't keep doing that. Like, I need to live my life. And I think that's why a lot of people like hire you, because even if you do enjoy it, it's, is this worth the hour that I just spent doing this? Or could I have been making money doing
Yeah.
something else, because my hourly value is higher than me sitting here doing this right now when I know that a professional can get it done faster and better than I can. And I don't want to spend the time doing this. I want to focus on something else. So while I love rendering, and I truly do, I haven't rendered in over 3 years at this point, which is
Oh, wow.
crazy because I love it. I really do. But I do floor plans, but I don't want to waste the time to do the rendering, find all the product, get it accurate, get all the materials to render correctly with all those iterations. Like, oh, why is that mirror not reflecting? Like figure out all those little nuances that go into one image, right? Not to mention sitting here doing walkthrough tours or VR if you're doing that still, Mina, I'm not sure. But all that, like the experience that goes behind it. I would rather say, here's the floor plan, here's the concept, and I did it with AI. It's not to scale. However, the floor plan is to scale, and
Mm.
I know everything fits. Here's a few different iterations. I like to pop those in too. But my clientele is not paying me for high level design right now. Like that's not the type of design work that I do. I like things that are fast and easy, and that's my clientele. You know, like I'm e-design. Like I prefer it that way. I do not like
Mm.
ordering furniture. It's a nightmare. So I'm like, bye. Here's your design plan, and that's a different client than I think who's coming to you, Mina. And those,
Mhm.
they're just bigger projects that need that level of accuracy.
Mhm. Mhm. And Mina, tell us the process, right? So, like, if a designer is listening and they're thinking, okay, I get it. I can do AI for initial moods and, you know, rough plans and ideas, but yeah, this is a high level project and this is worth it. And that, you know, fee to do a render with Duque is worth the insurance policy that a 50K rug is going to be beautiful. What is the process to, you mentioned in the very beginning about, well, some people have, you know, I'm going to say words I don't know what they mean. AutoCAD stuff or Revit or Sketch. I have no idea all the things, right? But like, do I like can I just be like, can I tell you what I want and talk you through it, like, and then just give you the images, or do I have to come with some level of you know, specifications, drawings, whatever? How does it work?
So, like I said, we have to adapt to each designer, each design firm, their experience level, what information they have, what purposes they're using it for. So we first talk, we have like a short intro call. We kind of go over like our process, you know, all the tools that we have that we can, you know, all the ways that we can help designers in their projects. And we ask as well, what are you using this for and what information do you have? Because at the end of the day, for us, everything is helpful, including
Mm.
mood boards, including things that maybe designers don't even think that we need, but whatever information they already have. So the easiest way to say it is whatever information that you already have that either you need to create the design or to communicate the design is what we need. So it can be different. Most designers have measurements. Most designers have floor plans. A lot of them have elevations, but not everyone. But again, depending if they're designing a bespoke piece of furniture, or you know, if they're really going crazy getting creative, then they might only have a hand sketch of something. Or, you know, sometimes they just have photography of a space that already exists, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I say is like, we can work off anything. We can work off of a hand sketch. We can work off of a photograph or a video. But for us to be as accurate as possible, we need as much information as possible. So we have some clients, they just want it to look visually accurate, but so they provide photos, they provide video, they provide measurements for certain things, but you know, if they don't have the floor plans, they don't have the elevations, then we're limited by that. So
So I'm hearing you'll make it work, whatever it is, but
mhm,
I'm going to have an initial meeting with you. You're going to ask me some questions. I'm going to provide whatever I have. And
mhm.
then what's the path then? You know, is it, you know, typically turn around in 1 day, 10 days, 2 weeks, like, you know, and of course, let's just restrict ourselves to one room,
Yeah,
one view,
yeah,
because we
yeah.
can't, you know.
Yeah. So for one interior, for example, not exteriors because those are more complex, but for an interior, once we have the information gathered, then we, you know, long story short, there's many steps, but once we have the information, we deliver the first draft, which are the clay renderings, which are just no color, no texture. And that's for you to confirm scale, placement, all of that. And then once you've given feedback on the clays, then we have two more rounds. We call them previews, where it's full color, full texture. So it's the final image essentially, but it's just not that high definition.
Okay.
It's still super clear image. And then you have two more points of feedback in the previews to give feedback. So what most people do is if they have feedback they want to give before presenting to their client, they'll use the first round them internally
Oh,
and then present to the client. And then if the client has any feedback or tweaks, that's the second round before we
Gotcha.
deliver the finals.
That makes sense. That's a good process. Okay. I like that. So, is there anything that we left out about this? That I feel like we're definitely going to link the other shows, which has a lot more detail about how individual designers have leveraged the power of Duque renders to, get higher projects, close better deals, make more profit. I remember Kelly ended up using it because a job fell apart and went on the skids, and then it was like her best job ever and most proud of the design. And because of a falling out with the builder who created the drama, she couldn't photograph. So then she had you guys render it so that she could include it in our portfolio. So there's a lot of little other stories in addition to just not getting into a rabbit hole with AI that's ultimately not going to give you an accurate thing anyway. That is the benefit of Duque, right?
So. Yeah. I just would love for people to understand, and this is why we're having this whole conversation, what AI can do, what it's good for, and where its limitations are, and where Duque Render still fits. Just because I have so many people who've come to us that say that they've spent so much time trying to figure this out and then only to come back to us anyway. So hopefully this can be like a little bit of a learning. And I don't know, Jenna, if you have anything else you want to say to as far as like what, so I mean, AI is a huge word. It can mean so many things, but like what are the tools that designers should be using in AI and how to use them and what the limitations are, even though we've kind of talked about it, but I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to that just to give a good understanding.
Yeah, I'll add one other piece that we haven't really talked about, but is one of the most time-consuming parts of putting a render together, and that is a custom model for one single furniture item that you don't have a 3D model for, right? So if it's not in a library or something like that, then you have to make it from scratch. And some programs do that. Some programs, SketchUp, you can do that. Some don't, and you can import things into your program. But either way, you'd have to like find a model or find something that works for it if it was never created. Or if this is a sketch that you are bringing to life and you're having it built, like you need more technical drawings and you need to have that modeled so that it can go into one of these renders. That is so time consuming. And so one of the first things that people were asking is, can we use AI to turn this into a 3D model to drop it in from a picture? And the answer is actually yes. You've been able to do that for a while. However, there's so many caveats to it because it's still just like roughly grabbing the shape and roughly grabbing the size. And then basically the texture that goes on the top is like an image. And so that image is just one piece. It's not like you can change the legs on it and then the fabric on the top. Like if you want to change one thing, now you got to get into SketchUp. You got to edit the components on it. You got to really make it work. So yes, sometimes it's simple things, you can do that, right? And you can save yourself a lot of time. But realistically, if you're working on a piece that has never been created before, or you cannot find the model and it's super intricate, you really need to have a professional model that so that you don't waste your entire making one model.
Yeah, this is now your job description is no longer interior designer, it's technical, like blah, 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 right?
And that's a part of your team, like if you had a full team and you weren't a solo designer, like you would be outsourcing that to somebody. So if you're doing this caliber of work where you are ordering custom products like that, you should probably be rendering them to accurate scale. And that's where Mina comes in.
Yeah. I remember that. I just, to close it out, I remember that in one of the conversations as well. It's like when you design something custom from your brain, you can't go pick it out at a magazine or Pinterest or whatever, right? And we have already discussed how, the words you use to tell AI what it is, it's like, oh, that's not what I said.
That's an interesting interpretation of what I said. Yeah,
and I don't care how lovely you think I am, you just screwed up.
Yeah. But they will never admit it. They're like, no, that's right. Is that right? Mina, to go back to your just what tools real quick. quick to wrap it up. I use Nano Banana inside of Gemini. Like, it's not nanobanana.com. You literally go to your Gemini and activate the image. And that is, for me, the best tool on the market for creating these AI mock-up versions for the inspiration and stuff like that. So as far as visual tools, that's where I go for that.
I love it. All right. Well, I have to say, ladies, I just love this conversation. And before we go, Jenna, like I keep alluding to, you're my go-to AI girl, but we probably should take a minute to let you tell everybody how you show up in this world and support interior designers in their work.
Sure. So I started teaching AI for interior designers. That's my website and my handle on Instagram. But I started teaching AI November of 2023, and I'm actually coming to you from Seattle today because I was at the Seattle Design Center and I travel almost not as much as you, LuAnn, but it's getting there. And I teach.
I feel like it's,
yeah,
it's not just me.
We're always running into each other. But I teach everywhere practical, useful AI and ethical is my goal.
And you're one of our newest instructors at Lu University too. So super excited to have you.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll put links in the show notes to all of Jenna's stuff and to Duque Render stuff. And of course, the past episodes that I've mentioned multiple times. I love it. I think it's great. I love that it's not either one is throw it away. It's use them together, but use them consciously, use them, understand and get what, have a grasp on what something's capabilities are and where those capabilities stop. And then the next product comes in and levels up for you is what I basically took away from this conversation for the most part. So thank you for being here, you guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks, LuAnn.
All right, let's take a minute to talk about what this conversation really at its core is about. And it's not really AI. It's about how you make decisions in your business, right? AI is a tool for the early stage of a process, whether that process is writing, that process is, designing. In the early stage, yes, it can help you in getting your ideas out. It can help you exploring your own ideas and thinking out of a box, right? And then it can help you focus in on a direction. But it is not accountable. You cannot take it as, hey, this is a good thing. It will not tell you when something doesn't fit. It will not catch a bad measurement. It will not protect your client experience. And if it doesn't have the right information to go on, it will make it up. Okay? Take it from somebody who has wanted to throw her computer against the wall more than a few times when I'm working with AI. Okay. And the problem is that if you create something with AI and you present it to your client, it's no longer an idea. Now it's a promise. And that's the line that you have to understand, right? Jenna said it very clearly. With AI, you absolutely can get something that looks pretty good. But often when you zoom in, it's off. The scale is off, the proportions are off. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's obvious. But you're a trained designer. When you look at it, you might be like, well, it's clear that that's off, but we have a good look of what we're talking about. But your client, not so much. If you show them a picture that looks pretty realistic, they're probably going to think it's real. Okay? So understanding that it's good for you in the background, but when you want to then go present to your client, you want 100% accuracy and quality that is in line with how you actually do your design process and how you deliver your design deliverables. You don't just phone those in, so we can't be phoning these images in either. And then take to mind what Mina explained. Yes, you get an amazing, gorgeous image at the end of your interaction with Duque, but throughout it, they're giving you a structured decision process because you ideate, they take it out of your brain, and then first come the clay renderings, and you get to look at that level. Then come the previews, then come the finals. Right? And what happens in each of these iterations between yourself as a professional and a live human that's a professional as well? You're going to catch things. And when you catch things, you're going to fix things, right? Sofas, like they talked about it, sofas that technically fit but actually aren't enough space for a human to walk around. AI isn't going to notice that. Things that look right on paper but are going to be wrong in the room. Okay? And this is where working with Duque protects your money. So it isn't this conversation really about better visuals. It's about better decisions. Now, we've had several other episodes with designers, your colleagues, that are using Duque renders. And I want to go back and pull some of the tidbits from those episodes. We have episode 905 with Nicole Salceda and El Odori. Nicole shared that she's using her renderings to sell spec homes before they're built. Before they're built. Not at the last month when practically everything is done and, everybody who's got their money on the line has been carrying the notes for, months or years, right? No, she's now selling homes before they're built because the client isn't imagining, wondering, guessing, because she's delivering 100% photorealistic renderings when they first see the property, whether it's an empty lot or it sticks with a foundation in, they actually can see what exactly that kitchen's going to look like, exactly how that primary bedroom is going to look. And when this happens, they're confident enough to go ahead and commit and buy the home. And now she's in a position of designing a home that's sold, right? So it's design support, the renderings, but this is a revenue strategy. Right? This is a strategy that makes it shorter, the timeline that her money is out on the street, and more time that the money is in her bank account. Elle, in that same conversation, shared that when she started using renderings, she noticed how the approval process changed for the better on her projects. She said, clients stop sitting in the maybe or the ghosting lane, right? She also said no more going back and forth to trying to explain her vision. She said they started saying yes, faster, easier, happier, and more confidently, right? That's like, just imagine eliminating that from your process, like, right? Like that middle part when you've done all the work, you've delivered it, and you're waiting for the yes, right? How good is it to have that yes faster? Then episode 961 with Kamaya Brown and Kelly O'Neill, Kamaya talked about how she has found that when she uses Duque renders for her projects, it eliminates all the noise. I kind of get a feeling of the white noise that just surrounds a client. Understanding they've got a lot of money on the line, it's a lot of decisions on the line. Yes, they've hired a professional to guide them through the decisions, but there's still a lot of insecurity there. And she noticed that it was a lot less second guessing, particularly second guessing and introducing outside opinions. She noticed a lot less of, my sister thinks we should do this, or I saw this online, right? And so when you can show your client your exact vision, now they're happy to say to their sister, no, this is what it's going to look like, and I love it, right? So she said she shows it, they decide, they move forward. I love it. And then Kelly, in that episode, I mentioned it in this conversation, how she lost access to one of her best projects because of a breakdown with a contractor. She couldn't photograph it. She finished it, and she was facing a moment with what she said was a milestone career project that she was like, I'm not going to have this in my portfolio. How is that possible? And she tried. You listen to the episode. She tried everything she could to, rectify that situation. And she just couldn't. And so she thought, wait a second, this is still my work. I can have it rendered by Duque Renders, and it can still look exactly as I designed it and how it was intended to be. And her takeaway? Now every project gets rendered. Not so much for aesthetics and not for the reasons that these other designers are, which she's getting all those same benefits, but for her, for documentation, for control of her intellectual property. And that's a great business decision. I love that. And then let's all go all the way back to episode 823, where Fernando Duque, the co-founder of Duque Renders, was on the podcast. He talked about in that episode the power of hiring for your weaknesses. Right? We say this all the time. We don't, it doesn't do us any good if we surround ourselves with, little mini me's, the people who do the same things we do at the same level that we do them. Okay? No, we need to surround ourselves with people who can do things better than us, the things that we cannot do as well, as efficiently, as profitably, as smoothly, whatever the word you want to insert there. And that applies here. Just because you can spend hours trying to get the perfect AI prompt, to get the perfect AI visual, does that mean that's where you should be spending your time? No, I don't think so. I'm going to tell you, I don't think so. And then finally, Shay McGee was back here in episode 1099. And she said she's not using renderings because, people are second guessing her, right? She's Shay McGee, right? When you hire Shay, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but let's make a leap. You've probably pretty much decided you're going ahead with her, right? But she said it was removing friction, very similar to what the other designers that I mentioned above said, as well as what Mina and Jenna said. She said this level of 100% photorealistic renderings helps her clients get to yes faster. And she reiterated that they prevent mistakes more often because of this. And for her, a big firm of that size, with that kind of visibility and that kind of reputation, public, national, international reputation on the line, she's looking for anything that paves the way for a smoother, more efficient, more profitable process. All right? So I think the biggest through line for all of these designers and the results that they get with Duque renders is exactly this. AI helps you think. It helps you move quickly in the beginning, but it does not carry responsibility. And Duque helps you execute. It helps you validate. It helps you protect. It helps you deliver on what you promised. Okay? And the designers who are running strong, profitable businesses, they're not confusing these roles. They're not trying to do everything themselves. So I want you to start making good decisions about where your time is best spent. Right? If you find yourself going down rabbit holes, spending hours to get something right, then I want you to think about Jenna's question. Was that hour or hours worth it? Or could you have been doing something that actually makes you more money? So, if this is hitting home for you, go to duquerenders.com/LuAnn and book a call. And as a listener, you are going to get 30% off your first order. Just have the conversation. Okay, see what it's about. You never know. And then definitely go to the show notes and listen to these other episodes, which we will link there, because you will get other ideas and other ways that working with Duque renders and introducing them and their product to your process will help you be more efficient and more profitable. Okay? Because those conversations show you exactly how it's playing out in real businesses on real projects with real money at stake. So, Mina and Jenna, my loves, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate this insight, and it really was a clarifying insight for me. Ideation, brainstorming, all of that, but let's leave the next part to the experts, okay? So thank you for joining me, ladies. Thank you for listening to me today. I appreciate that you show up. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.